and welcome to the Retirement Education Hour. Glad you're with us today here on the program. We have a great show lined up for you today. Of course, I'm alongside Kirk Cassidy and Michael Masserant. They're financial instructors with the Retirement Education Foundation. We'll be telling you about the Foundation's courses on retirement planning and how you can attend. Be listening throughout the show for those details. Now, retirement, it could last 25 to 30 years, but a lot of retirement plans, and maybe yours, are built on assumptions that never change, right? But think about it. Markets fluctuate. We've got tax laws that evolve depending on who's in Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of healthcare costs that continue to rise. And then think about your own life. Those events reshape your financial priorities. So today, we're going to explore why a comprehensive retirement plan should be anticipating those changes and how you can evaluate whether your plan is designed to guide you through retirement or stall you. This is an important topic. Kirk, Michael, where do we start?
Well, I think you nailed it. I think so many people go into retirement with more of a static plan, the 4% rule, conventional wisdom, the default rules that are built in so many of the softwares that are being utilized by our industry today. But I think there's a couple of really important points that this show hopefully will highlight. It starts with so many changes constantly, whether it's your own personal life events, whether it's your own personal cognitive changes, whether it is, like you said, who's in government. We've had major tax law changes now in the last two major tax law changes in the last 10 years. Massive tax law changes. In fact, I would argue to any of our listeners today, if you haven't seen your advisor or haven't modified, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, if you haven't modified your plans last year with the OBBB, you're missing it. Like so many law changes. You should be able to Roth convert more. You should be taking income from different places. Your timing of this will impact your timing of Social Security. This will impact your decision on lump sum versus pensions. Math needs to drive everything. And as things are changing, that means the math needs to be reran. And I am convinced, I know after teaching tens of thousands of people with hundreds of thousands of people consuming our content, and also having our own private practice, a high net worth family office that just takes care of people 50 years and older. I know how people approach retirement. They approach it pass fail, Michael. They simple is the best. And they are not making changes as things are changing. I don't know how. We're going to have 6 to 8 major market events through the next 30-year retirement. How aren't we pivoting and making adjustments to our plans as we're going through retirement?
So I don't know either, but one of the unfortunate things is that this is a really nuanced conversation about change. And I think when people hear anyone talking about change in retirement, their brain jumps immediately to the portfolio and investments. We should be changing our investments over. People say, yes, I agree with you, Kirk and Michael. I will be changing my portfolio over time as I have a different opinion on U.S. stocks versus international, or growth versus value, or as tech stocks rising. That's not what we're talking about.
Sorry, that's wrong.
That is not what we're talking about. Change, it's talking about things that are not being reflected on a day-to-day basis in the portfolio. It is, like you said, tax laws, massive tax laws that changed recently. And if you're not changing your income structure, your income sources, your wealth conversions, you're making mistakes. There will be market events, but you should not be trying to adjust your portfolio in anticipation of those things. No one can anticipate the stock market. There will be cognitive decline. So these are the changes that we're talking about, that a plan has to be flexible, but it's not what people think it is of changing their portfolio or tinkering with their stock bond allocation.
I think that's one of the greatest takeaways people take from the charities classes, is that they think people can stock pick market time. That's what's going to drive success in retirement. It has nothing to do with it. We're not talking about changing your investments. That's crazy. What you should be changing is where you're taking your income from during different market conditions. What you should be doing is changing where you're pulling money from, and when you're taking Social Security based on tax law changes. These are the things that what should be static, really? Your investments. Honestly, they're the most static of them all, is the investments. That is not the difficult part. It's everything you're doing around it. And we're talking about, by the way, as you're approaching retirement and in retirement. So please attend one of the charities 8-hour courses taught in 2 evenings or 1 full Saturday. We stream them live while we're teaching in the university. So wherever you're in the country, you can participate. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Another hard thing about planning for change is that you can't always predict what's going to change, but you can think through the different categories. For example, what happens if my plan down the road, my portfolio down the road is ahead of schedule? Should I be Roth converting more, Roth converting less, Roth converting my IRAs, my spouse's IRAs? What happens if one of us gets sick? What happens not if, but when? What happens when one of us passes away? So, from a change perspective, we can't always predict what the change is going to be or when it's going to occur, but a plan must be flexible enough so that when those things do pop up, you can pivot properly to protect your retirement.
So here's an example. 2022 occurred. We had a major market event. I know what most people did. 50% of retirees went panicked. I know that everyone's portfolio was down somewhere between 20 and 30%. There was no place to hide stocks or bonds. What I know should have been happening is we call it a pivot. They should have been pivoting to a non-correlated account to take your income from, because you should never take income from a portfolio when it's down, no matter what, ever. And what I'm not suggesting, what we will never suggest, the charity will teach you, you never have to change your spending patterns based upon a short-term market event. That shouldn't change. What you spend, how you spend it, where you want to spend your money on, that should never change based upon elections, short-term market events, how you feel, how someone tells you should feel. But what is happening within your plan should be changing, not your investments, but where you're taking your income from.
That's such an important point. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have this mindset of, if the market drops or something happens, okay, I'll just spend less. And they think I'll change my income.
No.
And that is honestly so sad. You've spent 20, 30, 40 plus years saving for retirement, and you finally get there, and then there's a market drop, and you're going to cancel the vacation, not buy the car, not do the home improvement project because the market's down. You did not save 20, 30, 40 years to still be serving the money, or at least we would argue you didn't intend to. You might if you don't plan properly, but that was not your intention. That's not financial freedom.
How long are you going to wait? How long does it take for the market? A decade? We had a lost decade. Do you guys remember? All of you listening, remember 99 to 2009, lost decade. Did you not do anything because the market was down? That's insane to live your retirement with fear. You don't need to, but it requires a flexible plan that is driven by math, not emotions. This is what we'll teach you in 8 hours, what is like master's level content at major universities in your area. They're 8 hours in length. All the charity asks from you is a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to attend, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back with Kirk and Michael right after this. And we're back. This is the Retirement Education Hour. So glad you're with us today. Megan Mozak alongside financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Michael Masserant. We're talking today about the evolution of your retirement plan. Yes, retirement plans should evolve, and that is intentional. We're talking about that today with Kirk and Michael, why that's important and how it might evolve. I want to make sure that you have all the information. We've been telling you about the Retirement Education Foundation's courses. These are courses on retirement planning. They're held at major colleges and universities near you, and we want to see you there. It's easy to register, but I'll tell you, these courses fill up very, very quickly. So here's how to make sure you have a spot. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org, or you can call 800-240-8981. Now, keep in mind, these courses, as I said, they are taught at major colleges and universities near you. These are like master's level courses. So it's a choice for you, either a full day, 8-hour course, or you can split it up over 2 days. And if you'd rather stream them live from your home, you are welcome to do that as well. They're taught at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, and Columbia College. So again, go to that website and get registered, retirementplanningedu.org. As we talk about the evolution of our retirement plan, what's actually driving this? Is it perhaps our spending habits? Is it how we're positioned in the market? Is it what's happening in Washington, D.C.? What should we be focused on?
So, I think there's a couple of things, and I want to be clear because I'm going to make a statement. And when I make this statement, people are going to, many of you will, most everyone of you will agree The problem is many of you will think you have what I'm telling you you need. Okay, so the answer in retirement will always be your plan should drive every decision. What do we mean by that? Meaning the math of your plan, risk mitigating 6 to 8 major market events over your lifetime, paying the least amount of taxes you have to over a 30-year retirement, optimizing for whatever your goal is, whether that's more income, max income, more legacy, living legacy. The math, there's a math answer to this. And the math answer isn't isolated in each individual decision you have to make, whether it's Social Security, pension, your IRAs, your non-IRAs. They are all interconnected within a very comprehensive plan that if you have a real plan, you had a CFP, CPA, attorney, wealth manager spending over 50 hours iterating hundreds of scenarios. And in the class, this is why the class is 8 hours. In fact, this is why I made a mistake in the first segment. I said something that I shouldn't have said, and I need a little mea culpa here. We're trying to rush and teach you in 8-minute segments what we teach in 8-hour classes, which is not simple, it's comprehensive, and it's what's going to produce the best outcomes in retirement. When I made a comment, Michael, and you caught it, I said, investments should be static. And it's not that simple. I'm not saying investments should be static. What I was trying to say is you can't allow what's going on in your life to drive your investments. The math should drive your investments. When you are spending dollars, when you're spending those dollars should drive your investments, not your predictions on what you think the market is or isn't going to do, because no one can predict it. Investing is simple, but building the plan, mapping out when you intend to spend dollars from different accounts and different registrations are where the nuance is. And this is what will occasionally change when we have tax law changes, life event changes, health event changes. These things change, but your investments will only change based upon when you intend to spend dollars. That's the only thing that should change your investment. And I know that's not a great answer. Very complicated. 8 hours class.
Well, to your point, and to be fair, it's really nuanced. And that's why in the first segment, when you said investments should be static, I kind of winced a little bit.
I saw.
Because I don't want someone's takeaway when they hear that saying, got it, the investment should never change ever, period, end of discussion. That's not the right takeaway. The right takeaway is the investments should not be changing willy-nilly because you read an article or your coworker bought or sold something or the market's up or down. That's not what should be changing the investments. But the investments do need to change over time based on the math, based on when are you spending this money. For example, if a plan gets built and you're withdrawing $100,000, $200,000 a year, and you determine, okay, this bucket of money over here, I'm not spending for 10 years, so therefore it can be invested more aggressively, well, great. But then 5 years later, you're now 5 years closer to spending that bucket
Correct.
of money that used to be 10 years away. Now it's 5 years away. So those investments need to change now that you're getting closer. So it does need to change over time, but it's, again, driven by the math, not by who's in the White House, what's the stock market doing, is your portfolio up or down today?
Michael, that was so much better the way you said that. You nailed it. It's so I invite everyone listening here to go to the Cherries website and go watch a webinar. It's like 30, 40 minutes long. The webinar is me. I think it's me. It's still me walking through what a comprehensive retirement plan would look like. We call it the sample plan, I think. It's a plan we actually teach how to construct, why we are constructing the plans that way in the 8-hour class. And you're going to learn how nuanced and comprehensive it really is. It's a lot. It's okay. I don't want people to be intimidated by a lot. I think our industry understands human behavior, and what the research tells us is anxiety promotes a feeling of fight or flight. At this point in your lives, many of you will choose to escape flight. And so they keep selling you this concept of simple. Oh, it needs to be simple. It's the 4% rule, and you just do a 60-40 portfolio. And maybe you do a little Roth converting, just fill up the bracket. No, we have this software that's going to figure it out this is BS. So this is why it is so important. Before you do anything, do yourself a favor. We are a national charity. teaching at most major universities in your areas. And we've been doing it for over a decade and a half. We are literally a charity trying to help you to know how to find the right teams to help you so you can have a better retirement. We've raised millions of dollars as a charity because we've impacted enough people's lives by helping them show where to go find the right teams and what a real plan looks like. Start before you do anything. Or if you've already done it, just do yourself a favor. Go attend an 8-hour class. That's all. It's a $29 donation to charity and an 8-hour investment. That's what it is. It will change your retirement. We guarantee that. So to register, go to refedu.org. That is refedu.org.
And we'll continue. There's plenty more Retirement Education Hour coming up next. And we're back. Glad you're with us. This is the Retirement Education Hour, and I'm here in the studio with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Michael Masserant. We're talking today about how your retirement plan should evolve. That's right. This is not a set it and forget it type of proposition. This is a living, breathing document entity, something that needs to ebb and flow with what is impacting it. And boy, a lot of things can impact your retirement plan. We don't want you stalled in retirement. We want you to grow no matter what is happening. We want it to evolve with you. We're talking about that with Kirk and Michael today. We're also talking about the Retirement Education Foundation, the courses that they hold on retirement planning. And these are really in-depth courses. They're held either a full day or over the course of 2 days. That's your choice at major colleges and universities near you. Really like master's level courses, and we'd love to see you there. It's easy to get registered, but I will tell you that the courses fill up quickly. So head over now to retirementplanningedu.org to get registered. That's retirementplanningedu.org, or you can call 800-240-8981. That's 800-240-8981. The locations include the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses, Oakland University, and the University of Missouri. Okay, back to our discussion today. Of course, market events, right? What happens on Wall Street. This has to have an impact on our retirement plan. And how can we maybe is there a way to get ahead of that? I mean, no one has a crystal ball, right? But the market certainly is going to have an effect. I think back to 2022, stocks and bonds were down. What would someone do in that situation?
Well, I think you nailed it. We're always going to have major market events. In fact, throughout your retirement, you're going to have on average, 6 to 8 major market events. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you how most people react because they don't have a flexible plan. They have not risk mitigated and set themselves up for success. And they really don't have a true comprehensive retirement plan. I'll prove it to you. Ready? Here's the data. 65% of retirees panicked in 2008 during the financial crisis. 65% of people retired people panicked. I know you didn't because you had someone else sending you a paycheck every 2 weeks. You could act less emotionally. Okay, ready? First quarter 2016, major market event, temporary. Fourth quarter of 2018, major market event, temporary. Okay, COVID. We know during COVID, March, after 21 of the worst days in market history, when the market was down 34%, that 35% of people panicked in March, right after the crash, and missed the next 50 best days in market histories. We know that during 2022, almost 50% of people that were retired panicked. The answer isn't panic, go to cash. The answer isn't I'm going to reduce my spending. By the way, some of you won't be able to reduce your spending because you'll be forced to take RMDs. The answer is not that you should ever change your spending patterns ever because of short-term or even potentially long-term market events. It also doesn't mean you should be changing your investments ever during these major market events. What it means is you should have a plan that anticipates that we are going to have 6 to 8 major market events throughout my retirement. So therefore, I have to have what we call pivot accounts. I have to have an account that is not correlated to the stock market that I can go to take income from temporarily, so to not ever panic, not ever sell when the portfolio's down, to that's what's going to drive real return. It is, you have to be able to then manage your emotions. It's about having a comprehensive plan that anticipates these major market events because they're going to happen.
They are. And one thing, so Kirk, you mentioned when the stock market falls, but if we zoom out, and Megan, you mentioned at the top of the segment in 2022. In 2022, the stock market fell almost 30%. And it's wild to me that people forget this. The bond market in 2022 fell 20%.
Yes.
It was the worst year in our country's history in the bond market.
Yes.
And I think the reason people forget is because bonds aren't as sexy as stocks. They don't get the headlines that the stock market gets. But 2022 was brutal for people. 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, did not matter. Your portfolio got crushed in 2022. And that's why, Kirk, to your point, it's that important to have a pivot account that is not only not tied to the stock market, but also not tied to bond market fluctuation. And that's where this gets really in the weeds and really nuanced, because now we're talking about individual bond ladders, treasury ladders, corporate ladders. Could be CDs, could be cash. There are
really short duration bond ETFs, short duration. Michael, I didn't mean to interrupt, but short. Now, people probably don't even know what we're talking about, right? I think some of our listeners will probably think, oh, they're going to start talking about annuities. Yes, an annuity may or may not be right temporarily, but that's a whole loaded gun. I mean, 96% of people who buy annuities will lose to the insurance company. A pivot account is something that is not correlated to the stock market, meaning it won't be down. That could be CDs. It could be cash. It could be a lot of things, but it cannot be down when we have major market events. Sorry.
And here's the challenge with the nuance is people go, oh, cash, got it. I'm going to keep $500,000 of cash on hand then. And that's not the right answer either. All of these things have balance. People can go not enough safety, too much safety. Everything has nuance. And that's what's so hard. We mentioned in a previous segment. That's what's so hard about the radio segments is we have 8 hours to try to thread this 8 minutes in these segments to try to thread these needles. And it's very challenging to do. We can expand a lot more in the class.
You know, it's interesting, Michael. People hear what they want to hear. So we say, oh, cash. I love that. I want to look, guess what makes this decision? You know what makes this decision? When to have pivot accounts, where those pivot accounts, the money should be, how much should be in pivot accounts. You know what makes those decisions, Michael? Not you, not me, not your advisor, not you. It's not a feeling. It's not an opinion. It's math. Your plan, risk mitigated, optimized plan, hundreds of iterations to determine what is the most optimal answer to every question. Where do I take my income from? When do I take it? If the market's up, where do I take my income from? When the market's down, how much do I fund in each of these different accounts, these different zones? These are the decisions that your plan should drive, not you or your feelings, or not your advisor's feelings or emotions. That's the challenge. You guys first need to learn what a plan looks like and why each piece of that plan is so critical. That's why it's an 8-hour class. That's why it's taught over 2 evenings or one full Saturday. That's why we teach them in universities, because it's like master's level content. I know we have listeners all over the country watching or listening to us. You can come to the classes wherever you're at in the country. You can stream them live while we're teaching the class. I would implore you, if you are local, do not take this streaming. Come in person. It is a lot. It moves fast. To register, go to refedu.org. That's refedu.org.
And we'll be back. There's more Retirement Education Hour coming up after this. And we're back. This is the Retirement Education Hour. We're so glad you're listening today. I'm Megan Mozak here in the studio with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Michael Masserant. They're with the Retirement Education Foundation. You know, the foundation has these courses we've been telling you about, really like master's level courses on retirement planning. And boy, is that necessary now more than ever. And these are held at major colleges and universities near you. We would love to see you in attendance. You can get registered today. Get all those details at retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. The locations include the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, and Columbia College. Get registered now at that website, retirementplanningedu.org. edu.org or call 800-240-8981. We've been talking today about the evolution of your retirement plan. Yes, your plan should evolve. If you're working with someone who hasn't told you that, that could be a red flag because, well, think about it. Life changes, the markets change. Who's elected and serving in Washington, D.C., that changes and that can affect our tax laws. There is so much to this, and it really can have an effect on the quality of your retirement. So getting out in front of this is important. Speaking of that, we have to prepare for life events, right? And we know some of these life events are going to come our way. Michael and Kirk, let's talk about it, but some we don't, right? We don't know the future. How do we position ourselves to be flexible enough to be ready for whatever life throws our way?
So a true comprehensive plan that was built effectively, and very few of you have it. I'm not being critical. We meet tens of thousands of you. We know what you have. E-Money, Money Guide Pro, Right Capital, Retirement Analyzer, Risk Alliance, all this stuff is nonsense. So that's not real planning. You just need to know that is not real comprehensive retirement planning. So there are things we definitely know that are going to happen. For example, we know death. One of you are going to die. Now, we don't know who's going to die first, but we can put some probabilities of statistics on this. We can, based upon your age gaps, we know life expectancies, then we can do some field underwriting. So a good advisor, a good team will be asking very intrusive questions around your health, very specific around your health and your family's history. And once we're able to identify who's likely to pass first, there's something major happens when someone dies first. There's a massive tax implication for the surviving spouse. There's a big Medicare cost implication upon the first spouse's dying. So those are things you can plan for in advance to put yourself in the most likely optimal outcomes. Here's another thing that we can plan for: cognitive decline. We know that there will be cognitive decline, some more significant than others. We know that 15% of you will have measurable cognitive decline in your 60s. We know that almost 40% of you will have measurable cognitive decline in your 70s, and in your 80s, 70% of you will have measurable cognitive decline. So there are things that we know that are going to happen. Sometimes we don't know to what extreme. That's where the flexibility, a long-term care event, an unplanned illness, a child issue that needs help. There are unplanned things that your plan needs to have the flexibility to be built in it so that you can pivot and make the moves to be able to take care of the unplanned. The things that bother me more is that there are so many things we know that are going to happen that we can plan for, but you aren't planning for them. You're just not.
What's frustrating is that there are these, as Kirk likes to call, known knowns, unknown unknowns, yada yada.
Unknown unknowns. Donald Rumsfeld quote, everyone. Go ahead.
I can't believe he hasn't mentioned it yet this show. And the industry leans on these things to scare people. The industry leans on, oh, well, long-term care is unpredictable. Inflation's unpredictable. A spouse passing away is unpredictable. Your child may need help. So for all this unpredictability, all this fear, their solution is work longer and spend less, the 4% rule.
Yep.
And that's why when you retire with $2 million, the software system says that you're probably going to leave $2 to $4 million when you're gone.
More.
And they say, isn't that great? And they couch it in this language of you need all this cushion because of all this unpredictability. You need all this cushion because of inflation or because of long-term care unknowns. The reality is you don't need all that liquid cushion. There are better tools that you can retire sooner, spend more money, and still be protected properly.
Look, you can spend in your 60s, you people in your 60s, you can take withdrawal spending rates of 6, 7, 8, 9%, even 10% in your 70s. You can. It just requires very comprehensive plans, which again, 50 hours, professionals running hundreds of iterations. This is what we teach in the class. Or you can settle for the 3 or 4% that they're going to give you. Notice, by the way, how they ask the question, what do you need in retirement? That's the question. The question your advisors should be asking you, what do you want in retirement? And then the advisors should find a way to be able to get it to you. And if they can't, this is how much we can get for you with all this risk mitigation, but it requires so much work, more work than an intern using a software. The next 10 callers, 20 callers gets this free roadmap to retirement. This is nonsense. When they employ 6 people, you can't do it. I mean, there are certain red flags that you can very easily identify. There's so many red flags that our class will help you identify to know whether your team is equipped and actually implementing these plans to plan for these things that we do know that are going to happen, and the unexpected things to give you the flexibility. It's really frustrating, Michael. It's frustrating.
Well, that's the one thing you mentioned. How much do you need versus how much do you want? That's a really quick, easy example of that does not sound like a big difference. When someone's asking you how much do you need versus how much do you want, it doesn't sound like a big difference at first, but they're going to use the word need because they've been trained to ask how much do you need, because they're trying to shape your behavior into into asking you to spend less in retirement. Not what do you want, what do you need?
I got halfway through the class this last weekend and asked, how many of you think you want to protect your principal? Still, they raised their hand because they've been trained. You don't need to protect your principal. Please, you can have a controlled spend down of your principal. Remember, the less you spend, the more your advisors make, the more the financial services industry makes when you spend less. So attend one of our 8-hour classes, taught in 2 evenings or 1 full Saturday. All we ask is for a $29 donation that goes to charity. Go to refedu.org. That's refedu.org.
And we'll be back with Kirk and Michael right after this. And we're back. Glad you're here. It's the Retirement Education Hour. Megan Mozak in the studio today with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy, Michael Masserant, talking about your retirement plan. Is it set up to be flexible? Can it evolve no matter what life throws its way? If you're unsure, or if you don't think so, that could be potentially a problem for your retirement future. We're talking about that with Kirk and Michael today, just how to make sure that your plan will work for you and evolve with you. One of the things that comes up a lot at the courses we've been telling you about that are brought to you by the Retirement Education Foundation as they talk about retirement planning specifically at these courses. And we'd love to see you there in attendance. You can register at retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. The courses are held at major colleges and universities in your community. Those include the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi, and Troy campuses, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, and Columbia College. Go to that website now. Pick a date, a location that makes sense for you, and that web address is retirementplanningedu.org. I want to get back to our show as we're talking about this idea of an evolving retirement plan. We have to talk about taxes, right? Because this is such a nuanced topic where things can change in a presidency. Things can change after Congress has a radical shift. And this is, talk about an impact to your retirement. How do we prepare for this from a planning perspective?
So taxes is a really great example of an easy, low-hanging fruit way of identifying whether you have a legitimate team or not, and whether or not you are legitimately qualified or really doing planning yourself. Because tax laws change, and they have changed twice in the last 10 years. Every one of you that has an advisor right now should have gone back to your advisor last year, and they should have modified your retirement plan, not a little, significantly. SALT, deductions, senior deductions. There are so many changes to the tax laws that gave you the ability to do really great advanced planning adjustments for the rest of your life. And here's one of the challenges, right? So people are promoting, the next 10, 20 callers will do a Roth analysis, a tax analysis. We have special software. Anyone that's using software to do this planning, I'm telling you, isn't doing real planning. And they may give you an analysis to set things up, but they're not going to do anything to promote it fit and adjust as things change going forward. That's not planning. A software spitting out a temporary solution in a moment of time is not tax planning. I mean, I hope you understand. Last year was an opportunity to adjust your entire plan and could have saved you hundreds of thousands of dollars, many of you, over your retirement by making adjustments to your plan. And so if you have a team that didn't do it, you missed the opportunity. You don't have a real plan. You don't have a real team. If you were doing this yourselves, you don't know what you're doing. I'm sorry. Taxes is such a major driver to your retirement. When you come to the classes, you're going to realize how we can extend the life of your money 10 to 15 years using the same investments in our examples, just by tax planning.
Well, here's a great example with the OBBB.
Yes.
Is the senior deduction with the phase outs. So people are given this bonus senior deduction, but there's a phase out to it. And so a lot of people said, well, okay, well, I don't want to forfeit that deduction, so I don't want to do my Roth conversions anymore. So they would reduce their Roth converting to get that temporary senior deduction. Okay, well, great. That may or may not have been the right choice, because now you just made a choice with blinders on looking at this one tax bill in this 1 year. But if you forewent that Roth conversion to get that temporary tax deduction, now you have larger IRAs, you have larger RMDs, you get bumped in tax brackets when one person passes away. It's even worse for a surviving spouse, all because you saved $1,000 in taxes back in 2025. So I'm not saying that people should or shouldn't adjust their Roth conversions based on that one factor, but it plays a role into everything else. And that's the piece that people don't understand, is that when tax laws change, you can't just look at that one tax code that changed.
Yes.
How does it impact everything else in the plan?
Does everyone understand, like, when you take Social Security, will impact your RMDs, it'll impact taxation on dividends, it impacts taxation on capital gains, how much you Roth, they're all interconnected. And when people are making decisions based upon something that just changed in a law, in isolation, as Michael's saying, just looking at the senior deduction, do I or don't I because of phase outs, or I am taking higher itemized deductions because now I have SALT, right? Do I Roth convert more? Oh, I might bump my IRMA brackets. These are temporary things. You're looking at things in a vacuum and in isolation. You have to look at your lifetime tax bill. Then you have to put a discount on it for net present value. Make sure you're using the right discount rates. Like, you guys, I'm not trying to offend you, but you don't know the math. You don't. I'm going to tell you, you don't know the math. Frankly, most of your advisors don't know the math. And that's the purpose of the class, is to help you understand the math, what drives what drives real comprehensive planning, what does it look like, and the why, so that you can then go search for the right teams to get you the best outcomes, Michael.
Taxes tends to be, for a lot of people in the class, the biggest takeaway of better understanding how the tax planning impacts their overall retirement planning. And I think the reason for that is because when people are building their wealth, when they're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and they're making money, saving money, growing their wealth, taxes, it's a necessary evil. You make more money, you pay more taxes. There are some things you can pull, like HSAs, 401ks, but for the most part, you make more money, pay more taxes. It is what it is. And people sort of forget how impactful taxes are. In the class, like you said, we show examples where not changing any investments, changing literally no investments, someone's money will last 10, 12, 13 years longer just by better tax planning. And that's when people realize, whoa, wait a minute. The tax planning is a huge piece to this, and I can't just look at one puzzle piece when making these decisions.
Yeah, no, seriously, like, taxes in retirement are a variable that has massively impacts outcomes, massively. And the challenge is, like, the whole financial service industry is now realize it, Social Security and Roth tax planning it's what our industry calls boomer candy. So everyone's marketing and selling around that, but you don't know the right math if they're really doing the right calculations to determine the least amount of lifetime taxes and considering the discount rates for net present value. This is why the class is 8 hours. And this is why everyone needs to take it before they make too many more decisions going forward, so that you can make sure you're getting the best possible outcomes for yourself. And all you need to do to attend one of our 8-hour classes is make a $29 donation to charity and register at refedu.org. That's refedu.org.
And we'll continue with the Retirement Education Hour right after this. happy to be back with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Michael Masserant. This is the Retirement Education Hour, and we're so glad you've tuned in as we talk about how to make sure your retirement plan can evolve no matter what's happening, either in the markets in Washington, D.C. with taxes, maybe in your own life. These retirement plans have to be living, breathing entities. So if your plan isn't designed to do that, that could be a red flag. We're going through it today with Kirk and Michael. You know, this is something that comes up at the courses we've been telling you about that the Retirement Education Foundation puts on. These are like master's level courses, and they're appropriately held at major colleges and universities near you, including the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, and Columbia College. You can get registered right now. Simply go to the website, retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org, or call 800-240-8981. All right, as we talk about this, I do want to find out how you approach the idea of planning, Kirk and Michael, in the spirit of having a plan that evolves.
Yeah, I think retirement is dynamic, right? And a retirement plan needs the ability to adapt. But there are a lot of things that through anyone in our industry who specializes in retirement, their experiences should help them to risk mitigate so many of the things that we know are going to happen. There are so many things that we can plan for. And so we always like to take this last segment and take this opportunity to walk through what a plan looks like. And so you can better understand how adaptive it is and how it is fluid as your life events and things around you are occurring. So, Michael, a retirement plan, so people can appreciate what it really should look like. And maybe you can talk about what it isn't. But what it should look like is it should have, and I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but every account you have, so whether it's a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or a 401k or a non-IRA, what we call non-qualified, sometimes, a TODO account or a trust account. Each one of these different, what we call registrations, should have 2 to 5 separately managed portfolios. And they're all designed from a risk perspective based upon when your plan is calling to spend that income. Whether what you're spending in the first 4 years, then what you're spending years 5 through 9, and then what you're not touching for 10 years. That's what's going to drive the risk and asset allocation of that portfolio. So where am I taking my income from when the market's up? Where am I taking my income from when the market is down? If we have a major market event, I have to have a pivot accounts that I can go to that are not correlated to the stock market, because rule number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of retirement planning is you can never take a withdrawal or rebalance a portfolio for any reason when your portfolio is down. You must have different accounts that you can pivot to take your income from when the market is down. You can never take a withdrawal when the market's down. That's going to destroy your performance. That's the most likely reason you will outlive your money. If you manage these two things, you will drive better performance and you can have 6, 7, 8, 9% withdrawal rates. How do I risk mitigate against the inevitability of one of you, 50%, 70% chance that one of you are going to need long-term care? One of you are going to die early going from married filing joint to single. Everything needs to be mapped out, iterated, anticipating 6 to 8 major market events through your retirement, planning out what your total tax bill over your lifetime is to minimize those taxes as much as possible. And then how can your plan and your teams educate you enough so that you don't allow short-term market events to change any of your spending patterns? Nothing should change. You shouldn't wait for anything in retirement. You should do what you want when you want. Your plan should be dynamic enough that it can navigate any event.
Beyond all of that, it should also be summarized, because some people prefer spreadsheets and charts, and some people prefer written, plain English explanations of what's going on. Often we find when there's a married couple, there's one person who is, quote unquote, the money person, one person who's not. And the person who's not the money person, if you will, often prefers a written explanation summary versus a spreadsheet. So that's what it should look like. What it should not look like is what we see very often from people coming to the class is they have an IRA, they have a Roth, they have a dial. All their accounts are invested similarly in a pick your poison, 70-30 portfolio, 60-40 portfolio. They're all invested similarly because that's the label they gave their team when they signed up 10 years ago. So their investments are based on the label they picked 10 years ago when they joined that team. And when the markets are up or down, all their accounts, their IRA, their Roth, their non-qualified accounts, are all doing the same thing at the same time. There's no uncorrelated assets. There's no pivot accounts. That's not a plan.
Yeah, neither is putting 50, 60, 70, 80% of your money in annuities, by the way. That's not a plan either. That's all nonsense. That's all BS. Look, comprehensive planning isn't easy. What the purpose of our class is to show you first what it is, what a comprehensive plan looks like, how they should go about building those plans, and the whys. The whys are really important. The why all these different levers are in a plan, all these different accounts, all the 2 to 5 different separately managed accounts. You understand all these things so that you can ask the right questions. See, a plan, the math should drive every decision of your financial lives as you are over 50 years old. How much risk you're taking, where you're spending your money from, whether you're going on vacation, whether you can afford the second house. The plan, the math, not your feelings, not message boards, not someone talking on TV in generalities. You are not general. You are not cookie cutter. Your situation is different than every other person's. I promise you. There's no two plans the same. I can tell you in our private practice, our high net worth family office, there's no two plans the same. No two allocation portfolios the same. Everything's customized individually. That is very, very difficult business model to achieve. This is why so few of you have it, but it exists. It is out there. You have to be able to distinguish between the sales sizzle, what people are saying they're doing, versus what they're really doing. And this 8-hour class will give you the tools to do this. This class will change your retirement. We guarantee it. And we've raised millions of dollars to prove it. All right. So 8 hours, 2 evenings, or 1 full Saturday in major universities, master level content. Register at retirementplanningedu.org, retirementplanningedu.org, or refedu.org, refedu.org.
Retirement Education Foundation is a fiscally sponsored program of United Charitable, a registered 501c3 public charity. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Retirement Education Foundation is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Retirement Education Foundation is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Retirement Education Foundation. This radio show is paid for by the Retirement Education Foundation, a charitable program.